Have you ever felt pressured to have an opinion on just about everything, whether it's politics, or social media drama, or celebrity news, and you feel like you've got to have an opinion even when you don't really care? Well, here's the truth. I think you know this. You don't have to have an opinion on everything. In fact, not having an opinion might just be the most freeing decision that you can make. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Lance Garrison. I'm a licensed psychologist with more than 20 years of experience, and I serve as Dean for the College of Professional Psychology at the Chicago School. Welcome back to the Daily Dose. Now, when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time with my grandfather, and it was time that I cherished. I cherish it even more now that I'm grown and I have a family and a career. And part of why I cherished it was just not because of him and the time we spent together, but because he had so much wisdom. And I often find myself wishing I could have a conversation with him now that I have some experience under my belt. But anyway, every now and then when I was a kid, I would offer him an unsolicited opinion about whatever it was that was going on at the moment. Kids do this, right? Sometimes when I would offer one of my opinions that wasn't particularly well informed, he would pause, he'd look me in the eye, and he would say, "Lance, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one." And then he would just walk away. And I remember feeling confused and sometimes a little bit embarrassed. But as I got older, I began to understand more deeply what he meant. And that's that if everyone has something, maybe it's not that valuable. Today, we live in a culture that rewards quick takes, hot takes, social media, 24-hour news cycles, and endless online debates. And they make it seem like you're supposed to have an opinion about everything, from the economy to celebrity breakups. Now, from a psychological standpoint, this is a product of social comparison and something called identity signaling. Research shows that often when we express opinions, we do it not to share insight, but we do it to signal to others who we are, what group we belong to, what values we hold, or at least the values that we want others to think we hold, even if they're not a true reflection of where we stand. And a lot of times we just want to fit into a group, we want to fit into a moment. And when we do that, we end up betraying ourselves in those moments. Now, in Stoic philosophy, this kind of constant reactivity is exactly the kind of thing that Epictetus warned us against. He said, "We have two ears, we have one mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." And for the Stoics, they really believed that silence and reflection and discernment were some of our greatest strengths rather than weaknesses. But what do? We often rush to express an opinion. We do it without reflection. We often speak from really emotional places rather than reason. And psychologists call this affective forecasting error, which is just a tendency to overestimate how strongly or how permanently we're going to feel a certain way about something. So what do? We fire off a tweet. We drop a comment because we feel something in a moment: outrage, excitement, frustration. And what happens after that? A lot of times we end up regretting it. And what happens when someone disagrees with us? It feels personal. It feels like they're rejecting us, not just our idea. And that's in part because expressing an opinion activates ego investment, which is where part of our self-worth becomes attached to the thing that we've said. And the more we identify with our opinions, unfortunately, the more fragile we become when they're challenged. When someone disagrees with our opinion, it feels like they're disagreeing with who we are as a person. It feels like they're making some value statement about who we are as a person. And the greater our ego investment, the more it just cuts to the core when someone disagrees with us. So what do? How do we avoid that? Seneca wrote that the greatest remedy for anger is delay. And that delay, which is the pause between the stimulus, the thing that happened, and the response, the behavior we engage in after the thing that has happened, is where reason lives. When someone disagrees with us and it feels personal and we start to have an emotional reaction to that, there's an urge to respond, no doubt about it. to say something, to fire off that tweet, to hit reply and send the email. But creating a pause, which is just that space of time for careful reflection after the stimulus, that's what creates space for reasoning, for introspection. And it gives us an opportunity to respond more thoughtfully in a less ego-driven, less emotional way. So that's one remedy. Remember, it was just your opinion in the first place, and the response you got back is just another opinion and nothing more. Just an opinion, not a value statement about you. Everyone's got an opinion. So why do you care so much? Now, here's another potential remedy. It works on a principle that's kind of countercultural, which is that you don't have to have an opinion about everything. But when you don't, you free up mental space. And this is something that I've been working on now for years, and it really does create so much more productive cognitive capacity. You also preserve a lot of emotional energy. All you have to do is watch the news or social media or read a comment section, and you're going to see an insane amount of emotional energy pent up in those words. You can almost see the angry face. You can almost see the tears, the anxiety, the sadness. There's just so much emotion wrapped up in the words. It can be exhausting to read them. Just imagine how exhausting it is to the person writing them. For what? Does it make you feel better? Does it resolve some sort of meaningful conflict in your life? Does it make you a better person? Does it make the person or the people who see it better? Honestly, yeah, I don't think so. So then I think we got to ask ourselves, why? Why do we do this? And when you give yourself real space between the stimulus and the response, and you come to grips with the fact that you don't always have to have an opinion, you give yourself time and you give yourself space to form better opinions, ones that are grounded in understanding, not impulse, opinions that matter to who you are as a person, opinions that are informed in ways that can help you grow as a human. And what this management process is something that psychology calls cognitive load management. And that's very simply, it's just the ability to choose where you invest your energy and your attention. And when we choose how to invest our attention and energy with purpose and intention, rather than just scattering opinions everywhere, we can think more deeply about fewer things. And Marcus Aurelius said, you always own the option of having no opinion. And then he added this really important tidbit. There's never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control. The vast majority of things we allow ourselves to get worked up about are completely out of our control. And thus, about 99% of the time, they're not worth the investment of our very limited and precious time and attention, nor are they worth the investment of our emotional energy. So here's why having no opinion can be a strength. Or at least, let's just say this, having fewer opinions can become a real strength. It allows more space for curiosity rather than judgment. Again, it protects your emotional elite equilibrium, avoiding these kind of wild and crazy emotional swings over things, again, of no consequence. It invites and it models humility, which really comes down to developing a recognition that we don't know everything. And no matter how much you know, the reality is that most of us don't know that much. And even much of what we know is subject to being wrong or needing to change based on new evidence or new insights over time. Creating this space invites real listening and an attitude of learning before we speak. Now, in a therapeutic context, this is the essence of mindful non-reactivity, which is just observing your thoughts without rushing to a response. The Stoics actually had a word for it. They called it suspending assent. And that's just noticing a thought or noticing an impulse without automatically acting on it or believing it. And this kind of mindful non-reactivity and the ability to suspend assent, they're not like a switch that you can just kind of flip on and off. They're definitely not easy. But they can definitely be cultivated through intentional focus and activities like mindfulness meditation. It's going to take a lot of biting your tongue. It's going to take some stewing inside while you create space to reflect, to learn, to think, to ask yourself, does this really matter? Is this something I have control over? Is how I'm feeling just a reflection of my ego investment? It's going to be hard, I promise you. But I promise you that it'll be worth every bit of effort. So the next time you see some heated post online or you hear some polarizing comment at work, pause, take a breath and ask yourself, do I really have enough information to hold a meaningful opinion here? And if the answer is no, give yourself permission to say, yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that. And then you can redirect your energy towards something that truly matters to you. A project, a relationship, a goal, something that actually makes a meaningful difference in your life. Because remember, 99% of the stuff out there doesn't do that. But we're really good at tricking ourselves into believing it does. And each time you create this space, each time you do this, you're strengthening your self-control, you're strengthening emotional regulation, and really importantly, you're creating more peace of mind. So the next time you're tempted to weigh in on everything, remember, silence can be wise. Not every conversation needs your voice. Not every moment needs your opinion. If you found today's content helpful, please take a moment, just a quick one. Like the video, share, and subscribe. And in the comments below, tell me, what's one topic that you've decided to stop having an opinion about? And what has that done to help or change your peace of mind? Until next time, take care of your mind, take care of each other, and be well.